All right, we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Silver Wave. I'm Jillian Aceman. I'm here with part of the creative team of Bone Cage, which is Taylor Olson's directorial debut. I've got Melani Wood, who produced the film, and Kevin Fraser, who is the cinematographer. Welcome, both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, it's our pleasure. I'm really excited. So I just want to jump right in and kind of start talking about it's not live yet. I keep getting go and then never mind.
Oh no.
I'm gonna lose my touch.
Yeah. We'll pretend we didn't hear any of that.
Yes, just we've never met.
It's really just a prank. It's just Kat and Tony pranking you. There's no Q&A.
I'm just realizing everybody closed the stream. We don't want to.
Like, oh, Taylor's not here.
That's what I do, probably.
All right, we are live. Welcome to Silver Wave, everyone. I'm Jillian Aceman. I'm super pumped to be here with part of the team from Bone Cage. We've got Melani Wood, who is the producer of the film, and Kevin Fraser, who is the cinematographer. Thank you both so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, no, like let's just jump right in and talk about the movie. First of all, congratulations. It's been doing exceptionally well. It's been getting wonderful reviews. You've been scooping up awards and cleaning house. Must feel pretty good.
Yeah, it's been, it's a weird time to be debuting your first feature film, but we're making the most of it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Kevin, I'm super pumped to have you here because one of my favorite things about Bone Cage was the cinematography. And I really wanted to talk to you about your process and how you work and how you and Taylor collaborated. I just found that Bone Cage and the cinematography of Bone Cage was one of the best examples I've seen of someone using the camera to build a world and to really create an atmosphere that suited the character and the story so well. Can you talk about how you arrived at how you were going to shoot it?
Sure, thank you. That's very kind words. We were lucky that Taylor and I both are big on prep. So we just sat at a kitchen table for hundreds, is it fair to say? Hundreds of hours, maybe? I don't know. Like a lot, like, a lot. Like months before production. Whenever we both had time off, we would just sit and we basically just designed everything together, even before we had locations and everything. So we just put a lot of work into character blocking and just using the camera like as an immersive tool. So we wanted it to feel as if it was a documentary and we were finding moments and following people around and whipping to find this and that and have it feel really organic. But it was all planned to the inch.
Mm-hmm. And it also felt very, you talk about how you wanted it to feel like a documentary, which I get, it's handheld, but it also felt really intimate. Like it didn't feel like it had that hands-off kind of like putting space between yourself and the subject. Like you really sometimes got right in there.
Yeah, it's true. Like we were very physically close, which is really fun for me. A bit nerve-wracking to not actually hit the actors with the cameras, which didn't happen too often. We only carried 3 lenses on the movie and we used one for almost everything. I think there are one shot with the other 2 lenses and the rest of it was all this one short zoom lens. So and it's really wide. So we used only wide lenses. I think it was like a 14 to 47. So we were always very wide, which put me very close. And that was kind of the whole idea, was to get the camera like inside the cast. So we're always like amongst them, like surrounded by performers.
That's awesome. Had either of you worked with Taylor before this project?
No.
I had shot a number of things that Taylor was an actor in. And actually how I came to be involved in Bone Cage, I shot a number of things with Taylor in it, and one of the shorts that I had shot that he was one of the leads in, he really blew me away. I just had such a great time working with him. I felt he was bringing so much to the project. And I was at the Halifax Library, and I was actually writing an email to Taylor to say, hey man, if you'd ever like to work on something, like I was really blown away by you, like maybe we could, if you ever want to talk about something. And while I was writing this email, he like came up behind me and like put his hand on my shoulders, like, hey buddy, what are you doing? And I was like, just writing you an email if you ever want to work together. He's like, well, let's talk.
That's
And
so poetic.
yeah, it was crazy. And we talked about 3 or 4 potential projects right there, or in that first meeting. I can't quite remember. But anyway, Bone Cage was one of them. And I kind of like latched onto it right away. And it's like, let's try to push that through.
Awesome.
We fed off each other's excitement from there.
Yeah, and I don't think I really need to. Kevin was on the project before I was, and it just so happened that they were doing those hours of prep work at my kitchen table. And so it just kind of, happened when they needed a producer, and I was just conveniently there already.
That's awesome.
Come on, Mel, we'll be really prepared, we promise.
Oh, I've heard that before.
Yeah. So, I'm grateful for it though. It was a good experience. Taylor is his work ethic is super intimidating. It took, a good month to catch up and like get on his level. And once we were there, it was great. But yeah, that guy works crazy hard.
Yeah,
I can second that.
Were either of you concerned at all about having a director who is also going to be in the leading position?
I never was really Taylor and I worked so closely all through prep, and we had like a good month where you just went through it doing a low budget feature film. You kind of are doing everything. We're like finding the locations together, and we're going through rehearsals and doing all that kind of stuff. But then there became a point a couple weeks out from going to camera where it was like, okay, I think like our brains have shared all of the same information. We need to now, like, you go off and like work with the actors and be an actor. Like, I got this here. And yeah, he has an incredible way of holding all this information in his head, and he never let anything slide. So it was totally great. Like, yeah.
Leading up to it, it's not something I have done a lot of, where the director and the lead are the same person for me, but it's something Taylor's done a bunch in his work, in his short films. And I wasn't quite sure how it would go, even just with like doing playback and how he would see the scenes and stuff. And then it turned out to be not an issue at all. In fact, it was actually a really nice way to work, it turned out. Taylor has great instincts, and he really trusts himself, and he like brought the noise for his preparedness too. Like, he knew the whole script inside and out, and he remembered all of the intricate blocking that we had set up previously. So when he was acting in the scene, he would know if he had it, and then we would just watch like basically like silent playback on a tiny little screen on the camera, and he'd just be like, yeah, that's it, let's move on. And it was really smooth.
I think by the time we actually went to camera, the relationship and trust between Kevin and Taylor was so there that like, you knew what he wanted, and you knew when you got it, he knew when he got it as an actor. So it was kind of just like, a quick second of watching those things back together.
Yeah, we were so on the same page that Taylor and I didn't actually have to talk much while we were on set. In fact, it was fun for me to just watch him be a performance director with the actors, because his work with me had already happened here in the kitchen. So
yeah, that's awesome. I know you were talking about this was an indie film, low budget. We're all kind of now familiar with that world. In terms of doing low budget, what were some of the challenges that you had to overcome, or what were just some of the big things that you had to figure out that?
Yeah, well, for me, I kind of, the only producing experience I really had was documentary, which felt much more straightforward. So I think for me, I never wanted to like ask too much of anyone that I wasn't able to compensate fairly, which kind of meant in prep between Taylor and myself taking on a lot of stuff to make sure it got done. Locations was by far the like most time consuming
Oh yeah.
thing for me. So like the first time I have money in the future, like hiring a location manager will be my first call. um
Mel also AD'd the last week, as well as produced and did locations and 5 other jobs. So she was
A
all
lot of
over,
hats.
a lot of
yeah,
hats.
yeah, but it was really fun. We had, we wanted to have a small and intimate crew. We wanted to film for like a decent number of days, but not film, like 12, 14-hour days. Like we wanted to try to stick to 10-hour days. Um, just so that, we could work and use our brains and still have those things kind of work, which I think is sometimes the first thing to go when you work on big movies. Um,
It might be worth mentioning that the way that the shot style was designed was with the budget in mind as well. Like that's why you'll see there's not a whole lot of cutting in the movie. Like there's a lot of scenes are one-ers or as few shots as possible to tell the story.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is when you get a good take, you can move on instead of doing like a whack of coverage. So
Oh
we
yeah.
were able to, I think, shoot less days because sometimes you get a shot. And it's like, okay, there's 4 minutes of the movie done,
yeah.
before first subs.
I that's like that happens to just be also like the way that I work. Like I like to do very I don't do very much coverage, which can, kind of burn you in editing sometimes, but also like it feels more I don't know, it's just for me it's the best way to work because I can see how it's going to cut together. I can see how it's going to come out and it just gives breathing room to what's going on in front of the camera, you know?
Yeah.
Totally. It was one of my first times working that way. And it was so crazy like, we got, a ways into the shoot, in the dailies, you could kind of like watch the movies.
Yeah.
You could watch the movie, like mostly when you shoot, a 14 setup dinner scene or something, you're like, oh, I wonder what they're going to do with that. But with this, it's like,
Yeah,
here is what the movie's going
exactly.
to be.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, that's awesome. Well, can you talk about maybe like like each of you is most proud of with this project in particular?
Ooh, that's a hard question.
Hmm. Well, that we got it done.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think that with Taylor and I, we wanted to design the script and the characters and our shooting style all fit within the budget, and I feel like it's a cohesive world. Like I think if we had more time or more money, we wouldn't have changed the way that we shot it. So I think that just being able to come in with an approach that could be successful and then pulling it off was nice.
Yeah.
Well,
For me,
sorry, I just want to
oh
like
yeah.
touch on what Kevin just said, like saying that you wouldn't have changed how you shot it if you had more money. Like what an amazing feeling that is.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a couple of scenes. I mean, there are some small things, like some of our night exterior stuff. We would have used different tools, and of course, there's some
Sure,
things
sure.
for
Yeah.
sure.
But
But in terms of
overall,
stylistically, I think that I think we got it right for that story.
Yeah.
awesome. What about you, Melanie?
I mean, for me, I think anytime I can like work on a film and at the end, like everyone is still happy and healthy and like friends is obviously a huge accomplishment. And in turns out in this film, we also made a pretty good movie. So that's a bonus. Um, my like the hardest thing for me to accomplish, I think, in making this film was locking down that bridge that you see. So when that day was done, that felt like a victory. It's like, okay, no matter what happens after this, like the bridge day is done.
Yeah, there's a lot of anxiety leading up to that, and that was our last week too. So we had so much time to fret about
Yeah.
if the bridge would
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. So getting that,
Yeah,
yeah.
if we had a lot more money, it probably would have been more security that the bridge wouldn't fall through.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing that like that does become like your Everest on these
Yeah.
productions, right? It's like there's one thing that becomes like this huge obstacle and it's like, how am I going to solve this? And then you do and you're just like, this seems like such a small problem in like the run of a production, but like, man, I got that bridge, Like it's such a
For
good
sure.
feeling.
Yeah, and from day one, working with Taylor on this project, he's like, it's designed for a low budget feature. Like, it's relatively like smallish cast, but there is this bridge, and like, I've got to jump off it, and we've got to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did it.
Just kind of moving, I wanted to just kind of touch on casting as well. So,
Yeah.
um, Taylor wrote it and directed it and starred in it. Um, what was the casting process like for all of the supporting cast?
Yeah, Taylor just also told me who was going to be in it. It
Okay.
was
Did
like,
he know, or did he do auditions? Like, did he just reach out to
uh,
people? Do you
I
know?
think I think for the most part, I mean, I could be wrong. When I came onto the project, which I kind of feel like was decently early enough, Taylor had in mind like who he wanted for every role. And I think for the most part, that's who he got as
It
well.
had always been that way, yeah.
Yeah.
Taylor knew these people and wanted them, and then he got them.
Yeah. And it was my first time working with most of them as well. I'd worked with Amy a few times, but Ursula, I think this was maybe her first film project, and
No way, really?
She
yeah,
was amazing. Like, that's
she's
crazy.
yeah, she's incredible. Like she steals the show for sure.
Yeah.
Sam is incredible. Yeah,
Yeah, it was super fun for me. Like we were talking about earlier, how like I got to be like right in there, like right inside the mix with them. Like it was kind of like having like, because it was based on a play. It was kind of like having like the absolute best seat in the house for like this play performance, and getting to like focus in on like what performance was most interesting at that moment. It was yeah, it's such a and those long takes help with that too, right? You can really get into it.
Yeah.
Really pleasure watching all those folks work.
yeah,
I find with long takes, like, you really get to enjoy the moment on the day and, like, feel the whole thing play out, you know? It's just, like, it's my favorite part of the process is just finally seeing it unfold in front of me,
yeah.
and, like, when you're doing those long takes, it's just so wicked to see this magic happening right in front of you. It's such a little rush.
Yeah, and I guess one thing that we kind of did that was different, and for me as a producer, a hard thing to wrap my head around at first, but I'm very grateful we did it now in hindsight, is Kevin rehearsed with the actors. We did like a full week of rehearsals in our house location, um, which for a few days threw Kevin and the camera in there too. So a lot of those like long scenes that were so choreographed, we pulled them off because we were able to actually like rehearse them with the cast, but also the camera. So everyone kind of knew where people were moving, which totally paid off. It was like hard to wrap my head around, so much rehearsal time when
Yeah.
already we had very little money and
It was the
time. But
best. I would
yeah.
I would like to do that
Yeah.
anytime possible. I still don't. I've got to work with a lot of these actors, several times since, but I'm still not sure how they feel about how specific we were about all these marks all the time. And like that the blocking was so choreographed, but did they ever kill it? No one
Yeah.
complained or hated me outright that I know
Oh,
of. So
I think we're all still friends at the end.
but yeah, getting to rehearse for days previous, and it was myself and our first camera assistant, and we had the camera with our main lens, and then we just took the things that Taylor and I thought would work and just made sure they would work before everyone was standing around on the clock.
That's awesome. I've got a question coming in from someone who's tuning into the live feed. I've got a question from Samuel, who's wondering what was your inspiration for the jump cuts?
Ballast. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but it was a big reference for Taylor and I, and we just love the way that you can do the jump cuts in a way that has multiple meanings. Like sometimes you can feel like you're moving through time. Sometimes you can just like sort of amp up the energy. And that was something that we had planned from the beginning. Like, even though like sometimes we'll do these long takes and we'll just cut out some steps and like jump forward. We planned on using that technique. And then we also knew that if we embrace that technique, it could maybe save our screw ups. If we ever did need to marry, take 3 and take 8 together, like maybe we could make that work.
Mhm.
And so we was sort of like both a style tool and like a pragmatic, get out of jail, hopefully at low
Yeah.
cost
Yeah.
card.
It's really interesting. And just going back to something you said a few minutes ago, you were talking about like all the marks, and it's really interesting because that really caught me off guard. It didn't seem like a movie where people were like trying to hit marks. Like it just felt very organic. It was clear that like the camera knew where the action was going to be the whole time. You weren't trying to catch up as you went, but it did not seem to me at all like a film where people are just hitting marks. Like it just felt so organic. So
Well,
good
to be specific, I'm glad it does feel that way. And to be specific, there actually weren't physical marks on the floor, as our first AC will tell you. That
Yeah.
never happened. I don't know if we ever laid a mark. But we, in the rehearsals, we would find like specific places, and the actors would take their own marks, and it was specific because they'd have to hit it in a way that the people who were behind the, we always had these stacked framings, and
Yeah,
it mattered, and they did it.
that's amazing. What are both of you working on next?
Well, I think like a week after we wrapped Bone Cage, Taylor sent us like 4 or 5 different ideas that he wanted to do next. So, and he's and he's got another feature underway, so that's exciting for him.
I think he actually has two. Maybe he's producing one and acting in. Taylor makes a lot of movies,
Yeah.
and we're hoping to be involved in another one with him soon.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Melanie and I are also making a project on our own as well. We're doing a feature documentary about whales.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Excited to do something totally different.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, was there anything else that either of you wanted to add about the?
Oh no. Sorry, there was just a Zoom moment there, Jillian. We just kind of missed that question.
Yeah, sorry. I was just wondering if there was anything else that either of you wanted to add about the experience or, the process, the outcome, everything.
Um, I don't know. I think like for me, I'm just super grateful to have had the opportunity. I think going through the Telefilm Talent to Watch program was a great opportunity to like learn and really feel like, you're making a movie, but also have a lot of freedom and opportunities to learn and make mistakes and make them better. And so for me, the whole thing was really grateful. I'm really grateful to have been able to work with Kevin and Taylor and an amazing crew of people who were like kind enough to come out with us and really like be collaborators on the project was really special. So it was a great experience, and it's a bonus that we have a good movie to show for it too.
I'm pumped that people are starting to see it. With the world is weird, and who knows. But we're starting to play in some festivals and share the movie. And thank you, Silver Wave, for playing.
Yes.
Anyone who's still here watching this, if there's anyone still doing that,
Yeah.
thank you.
I do still have one question. My favorite question to ask at Q&As when I go to film festivals, and as well here on Zoom tonight, is if both of you could talk about like just like a personal favorite moment from production, or a favorite scene.
Okay, I have two.
Yeah.
My favorite moment was sometime in the first week. I don't know what day it was, maybe day 3 or 4, when Taylor and I sort of realized it was going to work and making the movie was also fun. And I kind of realized that this way of working with this group of people I could do for a really long time. And it was just like such a great feeling to know that that we wanted to keep going. It wasn't a slog. It was like we were actually having fun. And then favorite scene. I don't know if it's my favorite scene, but I remember liking it at the time. There's a scene where Jamie and Krista they kind of get in an argument about this washing machine and the trailer at the back of this pickup truck. And it's just a really animated scene with a lot of moving parts with those two characters, and it was just super fun to shoot. And I thought the actors killed it.
They did. They definitely did.
I'm having trouble thinking of like my favorite scene. I found like I was always running around. I thought one scene that I was dreading doing was the washing machine falling off of the truck. I was, as a producer, I was like, there are so many red flags going on in this whole thing. But on the day, it was really fun, and it all worked out. So I remember feeling pretty good when that ended.
Do you know, though, that that one scene was the only on-set injury?
Who got hurt?
Well, he's just so tough. He wouldn't say he was hurt, but I hit Jason Goodyear in the head with the Easy Rig
Oh,
in the
Oh
back of the pickup
no.
truck. Yeah, it
oh.
wasn't
Just speaking of that scene, how many times did you shoot it?
only 3, and I wanted to go again, and we weren't allowed.
That was probably.
Every time I watched it, I'm like, man, that 4th take would have been awesome.
Yeah. Let's not push our luck.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much, you two. I'm just so pumped to have been able to like talk to you more about this movie. I know I've been in touch with Taylor as we've gone through this filmmaking process,
Yeah.
but it's just really fun. I love film festivals. I love talking about movies, and I'm just like pumped that you're both here. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Silverwave, for having us. And hopefully next time we can do it in real life. But this has been really fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Bye. Thank you again.